Hi, I want to talk about that there's a whole new way about being a leader in the world today. and I think that everybody would probably agree that it's time for a whole new way to be a leader in the world today. Um, and I want to talk about why that's new and different. So I think that the new, I'm going to call them visionary leaders, they're not just empowering, inspiring, etc. There are other things that they're doing that are really different. So I'm going to just talk about some of those in this video. It's an introduction to, I'm doing a Genius Skill Kit for visionary leaders. So this is an introduction to that and how this kind of leadership is so different today. So uh, these new leaders, they innovate everything they touch. They're constantly coming up with new ideas, so they understand how to operate in the quantum field, how to call ideas to them, and how to innovate everything they're up to. They also have learned how to unleash genius in themselves and others. So in a way, you become an ideas machine, you could say. It's something I've really picked up from myself recently. It's like people talk and these ideas just pop constantly, and that's something that anyone can do. And I think we especially need those new ideas when you're dealing with like trying to solve things in the world today, and you need brand new innovative solutions um, in order to come up with unprecedented outcomes that will solve things that we currently might not think can be solved. And so there's a whole skill set involved with working in the quantum field and pulling ideas and learning how to innovate and bring those things through. And that's something that's easy to do. Once you get it, you go into a flow state with ideas and innovation. It's so exciting. I just love operating like that. I think it's just amazing. So I think what also happens is that these new visionary leaders become sources for brilliant visions of the future. So don't think they're just working on, oh, how to make something better. They're not just working with how it's always been and how it is. They're working with what wants to become. They're working with the new possibilities of us as a species, as a world, as a place in the universe that makes us different. So they are definitely doing things that make a difference. They're being good for people on the planet, of course, but it's far, far beyond that. It's about how we innovate the world, how we operate, how we connect, how we collaborate, how we innovate in the world today. And these new leaders, new visionary leaders, are able to do these kinds of things. The other thing that I think really distinguishes some of these new visionary leaders is that they operate in what I call spontaneous knowing. And I think that's a critical one today. So, any leader today is operating in a fast-paced, ever-changing world. And there is so much information. How do you ever stay on top of everything? How do you know everything you need to know? How do you make decisions to go in the right direction? Well, when you operate plugged into a kind of greater intelligence, a greater knowing, then what happens is you know where to go and what to do spontaneously in the moment. I will call that spontaneous knowing. For me, I've plugged into infinite intelligence, the quantum field, the greater mind, you could call it whatever you want. And what happens is you go into a flow state. And when you're in a flow state, there is a knowing to it, but there's also, you're guided by greater forces. So when you go to veer off in a direction that's not quite right, you have a whole body feeling experience. Not a bad one, it's a good one. You want to stay in the flow state, and the flow state kind of guides you. in terms of where you're going and how you're doing it. So it's like a feeling state of flow. And then there's also the knowing that comes with it, the understanding of dynamics and how things work and where things can go. I said to somebody the other day, we were talking about something, and I said, I don't necessarily work with what is and what's been. I work with what wants to be. And that is a whole skill in itself, to understand what's waiting to become as the future now of us all, and how you bring that flow, that creation into play. It's really such an exciting thing to be able to do. The other thing is that you become a sort of collaborative genius fuser. I would say you're almost like an alchemical whiz, because you're working in collaboration with others, where you witness their magnificence, you witness their contribution, and where things like in the world, when people have tried to do like green lighting and stuff like that, brainstorming, it's always been kind of like, well, there's a bunch of ideas, which one shall we use, or which ones shall we use? But in collaborative genius fusion, you are sourcing a space. It's an empowerment space. It's a magnificent co-creation space. And you are calling forth the mastery, the genius, the innovation of each and every one to contribute to the collective co-creation of what wants to happen. So for me, when I'm doing that with my groups, what I then take as what I call the alchemical whiz skill is I can get a sense of what's happening in the collective creation, include every single contribution. There is no contribution that is left out. Every contribution matters into the collective co-creation that we're doing. And then what happens is you develop a skill to be able to see the bigger outcome or creation that's emerging from this collaborative alchemical fusion of genius. So each person's genius and mastery is contributing, but it's like an alchemical pot, and it creates something extraordinary that comes from it. It's a brand new skill that I don't think many are yet using, but it's so exciting to be a part of. And every single contributor is equally as important as every other contributor. I call it collaborative genius fusion, or kaleidoscopic creation might be another term I'd use, but there is no leader in the process of that. What happens when you're hosting it, or you could say facilitating, but facilitating isn't quite the word I would use for it. When you're hosting and sourcing a space for collaborative genius fusion, you have to witness the magnificence of each and every one. You source this space of genius fusion, and you call forth that contribution, and you create a space in which collaboration is just automatic. When I do that in our groups, and when we do that together, it is extraordinary. There's no judgment of one another, no problems, no bad stuff is ever said about anyone else. We absolutely love being together. We thrive in the energy, in the vibration, in the creation that we make. We come off those moments feeling fulfilled, excited. And to me, that's a whole brand new way of doing things in the world today. And I think that's just so amazing. So you can see that there is a brand new way to be a leader in the world today. And it encompasses all of these things and maybe more than I'm talking about. And that's why I'm developing a genius skill kit for visionary leaders, because I think the world is ready for a whole new version of leadership in the world today, which in essence really isn't leaders, isn't perhaps the best and right term for it, but it's what everybody uses. I think you become sources. Sources for magnificence, sources for genius, sources for innovation, sources for unprecedented outcomes, sources for futures. And I think it's a kind of source leadership in which everyone becomes a co-creator, a collaborator, a genius inventor of what is currently being created. So, really exciting. I love it. And I have been wanting to for a couple of weeks now, really kept saying, gosh, I wish I could get the world to understand that there's a whole new way to be a leader today. And so this is my way at it. So there you go. Okay, so I'm about to do a pilot called the Genius Skill Kit for Visionary Leaders. And if you'd like to be a part of that pilot, I'm going to be doing 12 modules on a whole bunch of these kinds of topics. And I'll be doing 2 to 3 videos, short videos, 15, 20 minutes each, maybe less, on each topic, on each module, and then just putting them into a password-protected website as well as into a Facebook group where we can exchange and talk about it. So that's it. So that's the pilot. If you want to dive in and understand how you operate in some of these new collaborative, innovative, alchemical ways, then dive in. It's just £99, which is about 130 US for the pilot. It'll go up much higher later once I've got it done, but I'd love to have you participate in it with me. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.